Good day to you. I'm Stu Ellis, and I take care of the farm chores here at WCIA 3. And welcome to Midwest Ag This Week. For this initial edition of our weekly farm magazine, you'll see some of the more popular aspects of the Farm Progress Show, which wrapped up Thursday at Decatur's Progress City. We'll visit with friends about the weather as you possibly venture into your cornfields this week, and about markets as you venture into marketing that crop. Our Shop Talk segment will be a visit with agriculture's favorite tinkerer. And when we open the door on research at the College of ACES, you'll learn about the higher value of potentials for your crops because of energy applications. That's our workload on Midwest Ag This Week, and we begin right now.
Welcome to Midwest Ag This Week with host Stu Ellis.
At the Farm Progress Show, every make, model, and color of combine was in the field, demonstrating just how it does and why it does it. And everyone across the Midwest at the show was out in the field watching their performance.
The primary popularity of the Farm Progress Show is not necessarily the immaculate equipment posing among mums and evergreens and wood chips, but instead it's the field demonstrations every day, harvesting and tillage primarily. Crowds of farmers will push against safety ropes while an announcer describes the features of a given combine, including harvesting and unloading capacity, type and size of the internal components, and the availability of headers. Once the announcer stops and the signal is given for the combine operator, he takes off through the field. In prior days, farmers would get to check behind the combine swath and inspect for corn kernels that may have been unharvested or otherwise lost in the shelling process. Because of injury concerns, there's a wide safety distancing, and it would be difficult to find the swath of an individual combine that one might be interested in purchasing. Among the primary attractions in the harvesting demonstrations were the new Deere X9 and the Fendt, both of which have been developed and released to the market since the COVID pandemic started. Farmers have not had the chance to see either in operation in the field and indicated they wanted to see them run with 16 row headers and nearly 500 bushel grain tanks. Both unload about 5 bushels to the minute, making it difficult for even 2 grain carts to keep up with field operational requirements. Farm Progress crowds were large in the harvest demonstrations and provided prospective buyers what they wanted to see before dropping upwards of $1 million or more on one of the new Class 9 and 10 machines with all the technology. At that point, they could return to Progress City and inquire about combine details, or head back home to local dealerships and dicker with the sales staff there about trying one out on their own farm. Test drives certainly important when you're spending that much money, and it's better to get a little bit of feel of the combine's handling, not just watch it in the fields at the Farm Progress Show, but that still gives them a good flavor of what it's all about.
Field tiles have certainly become a necessity, but what's the return on investment is a question that I asked of Jennifer Firkin of Springfield Plastics at the Farm Progress Show.
Well, it fluctuates year to year, obviously, as the commodity prices increase and decrease. The thing about drainage is that it really doesn't matter what some of those fluctuations are, because when drainage goes in the ground, it works immediately. So as soon as within 5 minutes of laying that drain tile into the ground, the water is finding it and getting it off the field. So it is really an immediate investment that they can see working firsthand when their drain tiles start running.
Okay. Now, we're sitting on some pretty sturdy drain tiles. These are not what really are the laterals that go through the fields. These have to be something that's a main conveyor of rivers.
That is correct. That is correct. As farm operations get bigger and bigger, and as more drainage systems are going in the ground, then they're utilizing these large dual wall pipe mains to take it to a further outlet. And they connect several landowners, several acres together, and they combine those drainage systems to take that outlet further.
Are we seeing landowners more communicative and and cooperative, let's say, in moving water
Sure.
across a township?
Sure, sure. It is much more common either in certain states where they use drainage districts, or even when landowners come together and decide they want to share a big main and we're going to take these size pipes on down a mile down the road to get to their outlet, then the landowners come together and they share the cost of that main, and then they'll work individually with their contractors on running laterals after the fact.
It was great weather at the Farm Progress Show.
It sure was. Looked like you had a lot of sunshine there and temperatures weren't too hot, was it?
No, the Farm Progress folks were really happy because the attendees were happy.
And that's always what you want to have, especially after missing a year. It's nice to have good weather to bring everybody back in.
Showers we can expect in Boone, Iowa just about every year.
Right.
Sunny weather we can expect at Progress City every year.
That is correct. And we do have a chance for a few rain showers that will be coming through the area during the week ahead. But for the most part, though, it's going to be a relatively dry forecast. As we take a look at our growing degree days, everything is actually just slightly above our average compared to where they normally are at this point in the month historically. So a little bit higher than normal. Our soil temperature, is a little bit lower after this kind of nice little cooling trend that we have had recently. So it is going down a little bit. And our soil moisture also coming down a little bit too compared to the past about week or so. So everything's kind of, it's still warm, but we are starting to cool off a little bit with our soil, and we're also starting to dry out a bit more too. You'll see that our rainfall totals for the year coming in at around 30 inches in Champaign, about 20 inches for Chicago, but then getting close to 35 inches for Springfield. Our drought monitor, as you can see, this is the most recent one, came out this past Thursday, does have some abnormally dry conditions on the far eastern side of the state. And there's also a bigger issue in terms of drier conditions in the northern part of the state going into Wisconsin and Iowa and Minnesota. As we go through our forecast, though, what we are going to be looking at will be relatively dry, quiet conditions here for this week. A lot of high pressure is going to be in place. We're thinking our next chance of rain across the region is going to be on Tuesday, thanks to that cold front coming through there. Not a lot of rain associated with that one, but on Tuesday, most likely temperatures will be kind of hot and it'll be windy. And there also could be a small severe weather chance too that we may have to kind of watch out for, mainly for a wind threat, but we'll get a little bit closer to that here in the next few days. But in the meantime, though, high pressure sticking around here for quite a lot of our forecast, making things feel very comfortable and help to dry things out also.
There's a lot of farmers who were at the Farm Progress Show saying that they're expecting to right after Labor Day head to the field and
I had to imagine
see what's out there moisture-wise.
Yeah, moisture-wise, it's been drying out. Like I said, the soil temperatures come down a little bit, but you know, for mainly the issue now with the moisture, it's drying out, and that's what you want.
All right, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Midwest Ag This Week.
Welcome you back to Midwest Ag This Week. And one of the interesting parts of the Farm Progress Show, one could see tomorrow's agriculture. Raven Industries has acquired power technology from DOT and control technology from Smart Ag. And Sarah Waltner of Raven guides you through the ways that you'll be applying it.
For those people not familiar with it, it's a U-shaped platform. It doesn't have a cab on it, and it's really meant to put in third-party implements. So far we've worked with a seeder, a sprayer, and a spreader, but it can move beyond that, and it is a U-shaped power platform. And so what we have really done with it is we have done a lot. You know, our strength is in the technology and in the solution set, and so we have done a lot to harden the design and to harden the technology on that. The other thing that we have done is we are using our full suite of technology on the implements that go on that machine. And what we have done within our technology is to further automate aspects of what we were already really good at to be set up for not having a person in the cab, to be set up for not having a user interface.
What other implements can you put on DOT beside a sprayer and a seeder and a sprayer?
Yeah, so those are the three we've done so far, but if you think about it, you know, it is not a pulling platform right now, and so future iterations absolutely could be, but this one is not designed to pull. And so you could think of other things, like we've had a lot of questions about tillage, we've had a lot of questions about even rolling and other things like that. And so it could be set up for a planter at some point. Those future iterations, whenever you think about what all do you hook behind a tractor, there really isn't a reason why it couldn't be hooked and connected to a U-shaped platform like what we have today. Obviously, the one as it exists today is not for pulling. It's not for all applications within row crops, but certainly future iterations can be.
Do you have OmniPower working privately on commercial farms now?
We do, yeah. It's still on a limited basis. Again, we're being very careful with how we roll it out, but we do have it working both seeding applications and also some spreading and spraying applications.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about OmniDrive. Now, this came from Smart Ag?
Yep.
Is that where it came from?
Correct.
Okay. What has Raven done to raise the ante on that?
Sure. So OmniDrive, if you're not familiar, if anybody listening to this is not familiar, is an automated aftermarket application that at first is being used on grain carts. So you've got a combine going through the field. It can cue the tractor with the grain cart to come up, and it'll come up and drive autonomously. It'll be in the right position for unloading while the combine is still engaged in harvesting and driving, and then it will automatically drive, again, all without a person in the cab, to the right unloading point, whether that's a semi at the end of the field or whatever that will be. And so what we've done since acquisition, again, there's been a lot of design hardening. We are very good at bringing innovation to commercial application, and so there's been a lot of hardening of the design, but also we are doing dynamic path planning. And so the tractor, as it's driving, is continuously figuring out what it's encountering, how it needs to continue to move. And so that has had a lot of, I would say, hardening from a commercial readiness standpoint. As you can imagine, the things you see driving through a field, whether there's a little slough, it's a bump, there's more things left in the field than, more debris and those kinds of things. All of those are things that we've got to make sure we take into account in our software.
Okay, and I'm assuming that OmniDrive is on commercial applications now in various places. From what?
Yes. Yep. So Smart Ag had built it on a John Deere 8R platform, and now we're working to expand that. There's a Magnum behind me, if you can see that. And so we're working to expand that platform, really sticking to grain cart applications for now. And so we've got several in the field that are being used, several that are being tested on limited release, those types of things, as well as it is for commercial sale. And we're managing those deliveries as we continue to finish out these beta testing here on some of these applications.
We are joined by Kurt Kimmel. Kurt, you look like you're dry. There's a lot of Ida out there that's left a lot of water that's pushing and pulling on the grain market, and that's been probably one of the headlines this week.
Oh boy, starting out the week, those guys in the south, a direct hit, heavy moisture, heavy wind damage. Going home, there was one commercial was ready to go there. They had some power waiting for water levels to come down. Same thing happened 16 years ago. We're in a situation, 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully we'll be back up going. That flood went north, and we'll see if there's any crop conditions report coming week on some additional damage of too much water there.
That's been one of the market drivers. What else is driving the market these days?
Well, we were able to squeak out some steady, soft support there late in the session. Thursday, Friday export news, we saw weekly export sales report, strong bean sales, strong corn sales. China was confident the Gulf's going to open up. They came in as the buyers. You look at the long-term chart there, we're still up and down, sideways in through this congestion pattern in the corn. Same thing on that soybean chart. We're still stuck in that range we've been in ever since April. So there'd be some type of news here, maybe pop out to the upside or downside.
It would be nice to get some heavy interest from China. That's certainly what really pumped up the market a year ago.
Exactly. They were buying large lots then. They're buying small lots now. So hopefully they keep that small lot buying going.
And that'll probably give a little bit more support and an uplift to the market. We want to get away from that support level and get up to more close to where the resistance is.
Yeah, if you've got some cash grain to sell, that's definitely on the top of the list. Getting some higher prices, getting that cash grain moved to meet some cash flow needs here this fall and winter.
That's and a lot of people are going to be needing that to pay their second cash rent bid for their payment for this fall, and that'll be important, won't it?
Exactly.
All right, Kurt, we appreciate it very much. Kurt Kimmel of Bates Commodities at Normal, joining us today for our market report. We'll be visiting with Kurt and some of his colleagues in the markets around the Midwest in future programs. We'll be right back. Each week in our program, we plan to visit with researchers from the University of Illinois College of ACES who've created new ideas for your farm's profitability.
Since the start of time, plants have been, well, solar panels. They have created energy for us that we are burning today. But something is changing in the way that we consider some of that energy and how we produce it from plants. With me are Vijay Singh and Stephen Long, two eminent researchers within the College of ACES, focused on energy. And this is something that we're going to be seeing a lot more of, is the connection between agriculture and energy.
What we've found is we can now engineer them. Plants like this miscanthus behind me, for example, energy cane, a relative of sugar cane. What we can now do is to engineer these so that they make more of that oil, and rather than degrading it as they do normally, that oil accumulates in their tissues. So by taking very productive plants like energy cane, miscanthus, we now have the potential to produce large amounts of vegetable oil that can be converted to biodiesel, biojet, etc. Per acre of land.
Now this is something that you're working primarily on. Then how are you going about doing that? Like capturing the lipid value, the caloric value out of the plants.
Yeah, so what we are trying to do is to understand what would be the impact of these crops on overall oil production per unit of land. So what we did is we designed a biorefinery that would be processing these kind of engineered crops that produce lipids. And then what we found is when we did our simulations that the same crop grown in the same amount of land as compared to conventional crops will produce 5 times more biofuels from the same unit of land. And not only just the vegetative oil that will recover as biofuels, but the residue that's left can then be converted into what's called cellulosic sugars and then be fermented to produce even additional biofuels. So the overall impact of doing that is just enormous in terms of total biofuel production.
Some amazing research going on at the University of Illinois, and something that's going to solve some major problems that we have in coming years. On this edition of Shop Talk, we're talking with Greg Sauter. Greg is probably the most well-known tinkerer of a lot of agricultural equipment. The CEO of 360 Yield Center. Greg, you have come out with many, many different products that really are designed to make agriculture a little bit more efficient. When you start thinking about some of these, what's your thought process about where you see something is just not working right and could be improved?
Well, Stu, that's exactly right. You know, in a way, it's always been selfish, whether it was precision planting or 360 Yield Center. I have a problem on my farm, and usually Greg's trying to fix his own problem. And I know if I can fix my problems, most growers have that same problem. So it always starts with the corn plant. What does the corn plant need? What's the next step for a corn plant? So you take, for example, our new 360 Wave. I knew we had a problem with starter fertilizer being on the seed. Sometimes you get by, sometimes you won't. And I kept saying, if we could put it just off to the side, and at the same time, design an attachment to do a better job of closing. Now, we got lots of technology on planters to know the downforce is correct. But if I can envelope dirt over the seed, it's always about how do I get every seed to give a 700x return. In other words, 700 kernels. I expect every seed I plant to put on an ear. And so when you look out here in the lot and you see 360 rain and we have a sign on it that says a completely new way to farm, what we're doing is we're saying if we would add water and nutrients right at the root of the plant every week, it doesn't need a lot. If we could just do a ½ inch of water every week in a corn plant, what would be the response? And I can tell you what it is. In central Illinois, without a drought, we were able to add, in the last 2 years, 51 bushel. I'm standing right next to a sprayer that has wide drops on it. What if we would just put the nitrogen right beside the stalk on top of the ground instead of knifing it in the center of the row? And I can tell you, of all the tests I've done, it's 7 bushel. So it sounds almost arrogant, but what I'm saying is you have to pretend to be a corn plant. When I'm in the field, I'm constantly looking and saying, what's my next problem?
Thinking like a corn plant.
Thinking like a corn plant.
Some interesting thoughts from Greg Sauter. That's our shop talk for today.
Think like a corn plant. That's what he does. He's been successful at it, not just in tinkering, but certainly increasing his yield. And I think a lot of farmers throughout the Midwest want to think like corn plants too. Maybe a bean plant now and then. That's kind of where everybody's thoughts need to be. We appreciate Kurt Kimmel of Bates Commodities joining us today. We appreciate Jack Gerfen from the WCIA3 weather staff joining us today. That concludes this edition of Midwest Ag This Week. We hope you have benefited from some of the information you heard and saw today, and I hope you share it with your farming colleagues. On behalf of Midwest Ag This Week, we invite you to join us again this time next week. I'm Stu Ellis.